You are sitting in a concrete room. The lights are too bright. There is no clock. You have been here for 6 hours, maybe 7. You have lost track. A detective leans forward and says 5 words that will change your life forever. We know you did it. You did not do it. But over the next 8 hours, you will confess anyway. This is not a hypothetical. This is what happened to Brendan Dassey, to the Central Park Five, to hundreds of innocent people exposed to America's most widely used interrogation method. The Reid Technique has trained over 500,000 law enforcement officers. It has extracted countless confessions. And according to the largest scientific review ever conducted, it produces 4.4 times more false confessions than its alternative. That alternative is called the peace model. Britain developed it after their interrogation methods destroyed innocent lives. And the science says it works better. Today, I'm going to break down both methods step by step. I will show you exactly how Reid manipulates psychology to extract confessions, why innocent people break under its pressure, and how peace achieves better results without the collateral damage. By the end, you will understand why a revolution in interrogation is coming and why it matters. Welcome to the Interrogation Files, where power, psychology, and control are decoded, and you learn what they do not want you to know. Here is what most people get wrong about interrogation. They think it is about intimidation, bright lights, good cop, bad cop, maybe some shouting. They picture scenes from crime dramas where detectives pound tables and threaten consequences. The reality is far more sophisticated and far more dangerous. Modern interrogation is psychological surgery. Every word is calculated, every pause is intentional, and the person in that chair often has no idea what is being done to their mind. The Reid Technique is not about physical pressure. It is a 9-step psychological system designed to exploit how your brain works under stress. Johnny Reid, a former Chicago police officer and polygraph expert, formalized it in 1962. The U.S. Supreme Court was so troubled by his methods that Miranda warnings exist partly because of them. The court called it psychological subjugation. Despite this, Reid and Associates has trained over 500,000 officers since 1974. It remains the dominant interrogation method in American law enforcement. Most detectives learn it. Most interrogation rooms use it. But here is what the research shows. A 2024 systematic review analyzed 29 experimental studies. The conclusion was devastating. Accusatorial methods like Reid produce 4.4 times more false confessions than information gathering alternatives. Not 4% more, 4 times more. The peace model emerged from Britain in 1992 after a series of wrongful convictions exposed the dangers of confession-focused interrogation. The Birmingham Six spent 16 years in prison for pub bombings they did not commit. Their confessions were beaten out of them. The Guildford Four served 15 years based on confessions obtained through what courts later called torture and police deceits. Britain looked at the evidence and asked a simple question. What if the goal of interrogation was not confession but information? What if we built a system around what actually works? That question produced peace. And now American law enforcement is starting to ask the same thing. Let me walk you through exactly how Reid works. Step 1 is called direct positive confrontation. The interrogator states guilt as absolute fact. Not did you do it? We know you did it. No question. No opening for denial. The tone is calm but certain. The body language is confident. Why does this work? It triggers what psychologists call certainty bias. When someone speaks with total confidence, your brain automatically assigns higher credibility, even when the statement is completely false. The interrogator is not asking. The interrogator is telling. And that distinction changes everything about how your brain processes the interaction. You expected a conversation. What you got was a verdict. Step 2 is theme development. This is the longest phase and the most psychologically manipulative. The interrogator offers you a psychological escape route. They suggest reasons that make what you did seem understandable. Maybe the victim provoked you. Maybe you were under financial pressure. Maybe it was an accident that got out of hand. Maybe you were protecting someone you love. Here's the psychology. Researchers Cassine and McNall demonstrated that this minimization communicates implicit promises of leniency. The interrogator never says you will get a lighter sentence if you confess. That would be illegal. But the theme suggests it. Your brain fills in the gap. You start thinking if I just explain the circumstances, they will understand. They will go easier on me. This is exactly what they want you to think. Steps 3 and 4 handle your resistance. When you try to deny involvement, the interrogator cuts you off before the denial gains momentum. When you raise objections, they reframe them as implicit acknowledgments. If you say, I would never hurt anyone, they respond with exactly, you are not a violent person. This was out of character for you. Your defense becomes evidence of your guilt. Step 5 closes the physical distance. The interrogator moves closer, uses your first name, maintains eye contact. You have been isolated for hours. The interrogator becomes your only source of human connection. This exploits what Gudjonsson calls isolation-induced psychological dependence. You start wanting their approval without realizing it. Step 6, watches for the break. The interrogator looks for signs that you are giving up. Slumped posture, avoiding eye contact, monosyllabic answers. These signal that you have entered what researchers identify as the compliance zone, the moment when you become most susceptible to suggestion. Step 7 delivers the trap. The interrogator presents 2 scenarios, both implying guilt. Was this planned or spur of the moment? Did you mean to hurt her, or did things just get out of control? Either choice is an admission. You think you are explaining yourself, you are actually confessing. Steps 8 and 9 expand and formalize. Once you make any admission, commitment consistency bias takes over. Your brain resists contradicting what you have already said. The interrogator builds the confession detail by detail, then writes it down for your signature. 9 steps, each one exploiting a documented psychological vulnerability, each one pushing you closer to confession regardless of guilt. Now let me show you how PEACE approaches the same situation. PEACE stands for 5 phases: planning and preparation, engage and explain, account, closure, evaluate. The critical difference is philosophical. Reid treats confession as the goal. PEACE treats information as the goal. Reid assumes guilt before the interrogation begins. PEACE maintains presumption of innocence throughout. Reid asks, "Why did you do it?" PEACE asks what happened. In the account phase, PEACE uses cognitive interview techniques developed by researchers Fisher and Geiselman. These are designed to enhance genuine memory rather than contaminate it. The first technique is mental reinstatement of context. The interviewer helps you recreate the environmental and emotional conditions of the event. What did you see? What did you hear? How were you feeling? This activates associated memories that might otherwise remain inaccessible. The second technique is the report everything instruction. You are encouraged to share details that seem trivial or irrelevant. Small details often prove significant, and the instruction signals that accuracy matters more than impressiveness. The third technique asks you to recall from different perspectives. Describe events from alternative viewpoints. This disrupts rehearsed narratives and activates different memory traces. The fourth technique reverses temporal order. Working backwards through events makes it harder to maintain a fabricated story while helping genuine memories surface. Research validates these techniques. Fisher and colleagues found trained detectives elicited 47% more information after cognitive interview training. A meta-analysis confirmed the approach consistently produces more accurate memories than standard interviews. But here is the part that matters most. PEACE does not just produce more information. It produces more reliable information with dramatically fewer false confessions. One laboratory study compared the 2 approaches directly. Under Reid-style interrogation, 50% of innocent participants falsely confessed. Under PEACE-style interviewing, 0% did, not lower, 0. Let me show you what Reid looks like when it fails. April 1989. A jogger is brutally attacked in Central Park. 5 teenagers, Raymond Santana, Kevin Richardson, Antoine McCrae, Yusuf Salam, and Corey Wise, are brought in for questioning. They are between 14 and 16 years old. They are Black and Latino. The interrogations last over 42 hours collectively. There is no adequate parental supervision. Police tell Yusuf Salam that his fingerprints were found on the victim's clothing. This is false. Each boy is told the others have already implicated him. Each confesses on videotape. There is no physical evidence connecting any of them to the crime. DNA excludes all 5. They are convicted anyway, because confessions are powerful. Jurors trust confessions. Everyone thinks innocent people do not confess. The prosecutors argue these teenagers were a wolf pack. The media repeated it. The confessions overrode everything else. In 2002, serial rapist Matias Reyes confesses to the crime. DNA confirms it. The 5 are exonerated after spending between 6 and 13 years in prison. New York City pays a $41 million settlement. $41 million. 5 destroyed childhoods. Careers derailed before they started. Families torn apart. All because of interrogation techniques designed to produce confessions regardless of truth. Brendan Dassey's case is equally devastating. He was 16 years old with an IQ between 69 and 73. That is borderline intellectual disability. The interrogation video shows detectives telling him at least 24 times that they already know how the victim was murdered. They use leading questions. They make false promises. We are in your corner, Brendan. After confessing to murder, Dassey asks if he can return to school in time for a project. He does not understand what has happened. A federal panel found his confession involuntary. A higher court reversed. The Supreme Court declined to hear the case. Brendan Dassey remains in prison. Michael Crow was 14 when his sister was murdered. Police interrogated him for 8 hours without parental consent. They told him his sister's blood was found in his bedroom. False. They told him his parents believed he was guilty and never wanted to see him again. False. They suggested he had a bad Michael personality that took over. False confession expert Richard Leo called it the most psychologically brutal interrogation and tortured confession he had ever observed. DNA later identified a mentally ill transient as the actual killer. The Crow family received a $7.25 million settlement. These are not isolated incidents. The Innocence Project documents that 29% of DNA exonerations involved false confessions. For murder convictions specifically, that figure rises to 61%. Study after study shows the same vulnerable populations. 33% of proven false confessors are juveniles. 22% have intellectual disabilities. The techniques are working exactly as designed. They are extracting confessions. They are just extracting them from innocent people. Now you know both systems. Here's what you can do with this knowledge. If you ever find yourself in an interrogation room, understand the psychology being deployed against you. Certainty statements are designed to trigger compliance, not reflect actual evidence. Theme development suggests leniency that may never materialize. The alternative question is a trap regardless of which option you choose. The friendly detective who seems to be on your side is using rapport as a tool, not offering genuine support. The research is clear on what protects innocent people. Exercise your right to remain silent. Request an attorney immediately. Do not try to explain your way out of suspicion. Innocent people think talking will clear them. The data shows it often does the opposite. Distinguished Professor Saul Kassan found that innocent suspects are more likely to waive their rights because they trust the system will recognize their innocence. That trust is often misplaced. Recognize the warning signs of a coercive interrogation, prolonged isolation, deprivation of sleep or food, false claims about evidence, suggestions that confessing will help you, rapid switching between aggressive and sympathetic approaches. These are not accidents. These are techniques. If you work in a system that uses Reid, understand that 2024 review, 4.4 times more false confessions. The FBI's high-value detainee interrogation group now recommends rapport-based information gathering. Wicklander-Zulawski, which trained over 200,000 officers, stopped teaching Reid in 2017. Their president said confrontation is not an effective way of getting truthful information. They were not persuaded by activists. They were persuaded by results. The reform movement is growing. Illinois banned police deception with juveniles in 2022. Oregon, Delaware, California, and several other states followed. 27 states now require electronic recording of interrogations, up from only 2 in 2003. Change is coming because the science is undeniable. Information gathering works. Accusatorial confrontation produces confessions, but not necessarily truth. The most dangerous question is not the one they ask. It is the one they make you ask yourself. The interrogator says, "We know you did it." And somewhere in hour 8, exhausted and alone, you start to wonder. Maybe I did. Maybe I just do not remember. That moment of doubt is engineered. Every step of Reid builds toward it. And once you cross that threshold, the confession follows. Peace asks a different question. It asks what happened, and it waits for the answer without presuming what that answer should be. One method seeks truth. The other seeks confession. The science tells us these are not the same thing. Now you know how they do it. The question is, have they already done it to someone you trust? If this changed how you see interrogation, subscribe. Every technique follows a playbook. I will decode them all.